Hey guys, it's Attilee, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about the first installment of this week's Steven Summer Adventures thing that's going on. It's crazy. It's basically 4 Steven bombs all smushed together across 4 weeks, and that's just, my brain is exploding every single day, and I just can't. What I'm basically going to be doing over the next couple weeks is just sort of doing week by week recaps and sort of reviews, sort of taking stock on my own feelings and sort of what I felt across the week, rather than doing my typical recap, react sort of things. Mainly because every single time I end up watching an episode, I'm exhausted and I'm just sort of dead-faced through the entire review, recap, react thing, and it's not fun. So doing this on the weekend when I have a lot more energy and just talking about what I like, because that's what I like to do. So, to start things off, we had Steven Floats, which for those of you who might not be super tapped into the Steven universe community online may or may not have known, it premiered way early over in France. So this episode was not new to me because I just totally spoiled myself and just did not wait for it. But for other people, it totally was new, and that's really exciting. In that episode, we got to see the confirmation that Steven holds a power that was similar to one that we've seen exhibited in Rose, and to be quite honest, it's one that we sort of have seen on and off in Steven, but not really had confirmation that it was a power or just sort of an animation visual gag for Steven. It's that Steven can control the descent speed of his jumps, and he has super crazy high jumps if he wants to. The problem with that is that Steven sort of had some difficulty figuring out exactly how to control that ascent and descent, because he ended up being a little bit stuck there, which was a little interesting. But it was really great to sort of see Steven and the gems work out and just sort of have a fun time together, discovering his power and figuring that out. As well as we had this really great bridge in the last big Steven Universe event, which I didn't really cover because I was crazy tired then as well. Was Steven and the gems sort of dealing with the cluster and all that, and it was incredibly gem-centric. And so then we have this episode, Steven Floats, which was a nice sort of in-between of being gem-centric as well as sort of having an ease back into Beach City and Beach City themes with those citizens there, because we've got Sadie and Big Donut becoming relevant once again, as Steven really wants the first brand new donut of the season for the Big Donut. That was really funny because I can absolutely relate to like knowing my donut places, like when they open and wanting like the first fresh donut when it's still hot. It's for anyone who's never like tried to go for a really fresh donut, like it's worth it. Please figure out how you can do that. The second episode on Monday that we got to see was also Drop Beat Dad, which was one that I'd sort of been anticipating a lot because I just have a lot of curiosity about Sour Cream and his family dynamic with Yellowtail Onion and Vidalia. And there was sort of a big illusion that Marty, who we saw as Greg's manager, person who's in charge of his music distributor, whatever, was both obviously formally in a relationship with Vidalia, but likely the father of Sour Cream, and that's been confirmed in this episode. And so we got to see a little bit of the family dynamic, or I should say lack thereof, between Sour Cream and his father Marty, which is really interesting to me. It's really hard sometimes to like know that people in your life do want the best for you, even though they're not really saying what you think is the best for you. So I don't know. That seems to be like a kind of typical teenager subplot line that I've seen in a couple other animated and sitcom related shows. But it was a really nice episode regardless, and getting to see a recurrence of Marty and sort of take stock of where he's been in life, which it seems like not some great places, that's for sure, was really interesting to me. I don't know. He definitely seemed, in terms of style as well as mannerisms, very Simpson-esque for anyone who watches The Simpsons. The third episode of this week was a huge standout just by musical numbers. This was the big musical episode that we've been waiting on. It's Mr. Greg. And in that episode, we sort of see the results of what happened in the very last few moments of Drop Beat Dad, which was that Marty delivered a enormous check to Greg of residual payments for a tune that Greg wrote forever ago that has now become a burger commercial jingle. So now Greg is absolutely rolling in cash and decides that with Steven, as well as Pearl, by Steven's suggestion, that they're going to go to Empire City and live it up for at least an evening and then get out of there because that bill is way too high. But it was really great. All the musical numbers were a huge range of both comical as well as emotional, particularly when it we got to hear Pearl sing "It's Over, Isn't It?" which was really fascinating because we've seen a lot of different facets of Pearl and Rose's relationship through Pearl's eyes. I'm really interested to see a little bit more on Rose's angle, or at least hear from Greg a little bit more about Rose's thoughts on Pearl. Maybe. I don't know if we'll ever get that. That would be interesting though. But yeah, this episode really sort of came to a head with Pearl talking about the fact that sort of she's trying to get over her feelings for Rose and deal with the fact that Rose is no longer present in anyone's lives outside of the fact that Steven exists, and sort of she wants to live in love for Steven a little bit. We got to see some resolution between her and Greg over her feelings for Rose and sort of the animosity they felt for so long between each other, which was really nice, and I think was a lot of the reason why Steven wanted the both of them to come together on this trip. If anything, it's kind of funny, this trip idea of Steven and Greg going on trips with one gem at a time, like we previously saw with the Keystone State, I believe it was, with Garnet, is reminding me a whole lot of Avatar episodes with Zuko, where everyone got to have like magical emotional field trips with Zuko. Yeah, this is absolutely a hallmark of that kind of storytelling. Moving on to what I think is like my favorite episode of the week. It's Too Short to Ride. There we get to see Amethyst, Steven, and Peridot all hanging out. But from it we get some sort of inner turmoil from Peridot in that she can't shapeshift like Amethyst and Steven can. And that's really upsetting to her because she gets really caught up in the idea of that she's not the ideal gem, in that she can't shapeshift like the others can, and she sort of gets really bent out of shape about things that she can't do, versus what Amethyst sort of says, you should really be proud of what you can do and what you are capable of. And from that we actually do learn that Peridot has metal, like, bending sort of powers. I wouldn't go so far as to call it metal bending in like the Avatar sense, but like metal, like telepathy maybe. Really interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops. But I loved the message at the heart of this, that like being concerned with what you can't do and getting really caught up in your lack of ability is really hard. It's a difficult cycle to get out of. I've gotten stuck in it too. But really being able to push past it and realize like, hey, I am really excited about what I am capable of, and these talents are amazing and totally mine, and I want to show them off to the world, is a great and positive message, I think, for all audiences to really be aware of. And I hope we continue to see more of that from Peridot and Amethyst, because Amethyst, I think that's a message that while she delivered that to Peridot, it's one that she herself needs to hear a lot too. Following Too Short to Ride, we had the new Lars, which was an interesting sort of reconfirmation of Steven's powers, or an expansion of them, if you will. We get to see, we've seen previously that Steven can embody things like the watermelon Stevens, which to me, like, weirdly made sense, because I'm like, okay, there's like some kind of extension of Steven. It sort of is believable Steven could then host or be a host of like a thing that he's created. That makes sense. That kind of weirdly makes sense. Steven, through dream capabilities, being able to embody and like manifest within Lars, doesn't really make sense to me, and I don't know why. And that episode totally threw me for like the entire afternoon. I was like, I don't know if I can do this like right now, like talk about an episode right now, like the new Lars. That episode also just gave me huge questions about just Lars and Sadie's relationship in general. And I don't know if maybe it's the fact that I haven't had a lot of relationships, or I haven't had a lot of like teenage angst relationships, but I have a hard time relating to Lars and Sadie's relationship and really getting behind exactly what the both of them want out of it. It seems like their wants and desires really fluctuate from episode to episode, and there's a lot of behind the scenes information that we're not getting from Steven. Since Steven is our lens, there's a lot of interaction at the Big Donut, or maybe even outside of it, that we're just not pertinent to because Steven isn't, and it makes it difficult to sort of pick up and drop off Lars and Sadie's relationship in between events where Steven's present. I don't know, maybe it's me, and maybe I just need to watch a lot more Lars and Sadie episodes again to sort of revisit their characters, but I sometimes have a hard time following exactly what their wants and desires are from one another, and maybe it's largely due to the fact that they have a very difficult time communicating, it seems, and I don't really know what kind of solution can ever come of that. Really, all I'm wanting for the both of them is them to be happy, be it them being together or not, but how that's gonna resolve. It seems like it's getting there. Maybe Steven has helped a little bit open those communications and sort of stop the embarrassment on Lars's part, but I really don't know. Lars is a hard character to count on, and Sadie is someone who I think has a lot of confidence issues and sometimes can't really see the worth in herself in the same way that we sort of see with Amethyst and Peridot. Maybe the three of them just need to hang out in one episode. That'd be great. I'd be totally game for that. Sadie can totally join the Shorty squad. She'd fit in perfectly. The final episode of this week was another standout for me, and that's Beach City Drift. We get to see the return of Stevonnie, which was really great, as well as a revisit of some of the feelings that Stevonnie had in their first major appearance, which was Alone Together, which was really fascinating to me, getting to see Steven and Connie separate from Stevonnie, being upset about consent and boundaries broken by Kevin in their last appearance was really, really interesting and a great follow-up to that episode. Seeing some of Greg's advice, it was all totally valid, but something that Stevonnie as well as Steven and Connie had to themselves come to the conclusion to that, hey, Kevin really isn't worth your time or energy being upset about. But again, that's all an emotion and a realization that they themselves had to come to, and sort of duking it out in a weird Tokyo City Drift, Beach City Drift battle. I mean, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Something that I thought was interesting too was seeing Stevonnie's tunnel vision. They're sort of weird, isolating, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, we did see this from them in Alone Together, but when I saw it there, I sort of took that as a metaphor that, oh, Stevonnie's feeling really overwhelmed from this situation, the issue of just feeling uncomfortable and out of place, and Kevin is really invading their space. That's not great. But in this episode, we sort of see, as Stevonnie is driving, the sort of same animation of a tunnel vision is sort of what I'd call it, that they're experiencing, and it was really interesting, and I'm not quite sure what it means. Really, we're gonna probably have to see another 1 or 2 episodes with Stevonnie to get the full picture around it and what it means for them. But yeah, something to take note of. I also really loved that Jenny within the episode used Stevonnie's pronouns consistently. That was really, really awesome and a great confirmation for any fans who might have not been 100% positive what Stevonnie's pronouns were prior to this episode, because I know some people had some confusion without looking into any kind of Crooniverse answers and responses to the character of Stevonnie. But yeah, those were really just my major Cliff Note thoughts from this week's episodes. I'm so excited to be resuming episodes on kind of a regular basis, but if I was to do an episode every single day for each episode, I would go insane, and I really hope you guys understand that. Right now I have a full-time job, I'm working lots and lots of events, weird hours, and doing episodes every single day, or like even just my typical Attilee on animation stuff, is just not gonna work right now. I think come fall things will be a lot more steady, and I'll be able to interact and react to things maybe on a more regular basis, but reacting to 4 weeks of episodes is just, my brain would melt. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you have any questions or want my own opinions, please feel free to leave a comment down below, or even visit my Steven Universe Tumblr. It's crystal-gems.tumblr.com. I would love to talk to you about the series here or there. So until next week, I'm super excited about Steven Universe back. What about you guys? Okay. Until next week, I'll see you guys then. Bye!